They weren't allowed to stay at home when others were locked away and locked down due to a pandemic. No, they were overworked, underpaid, and in many cases assaulted for simply doing their jobs. Last year, we witnessed major cities like Portland, Minneapolis, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, and New York City effectively defund their police departments. A year later, sadly, those cities have experienced record increases in violent crime, decreases in police officer recruitment and retention, and unjust chaos in the streets since defunding the police. Our state's two largest cities are in crisis right now due to crime. And unfortunately, a special session is the only way to address this issue and ensure that our law enforcement officers have the tools needed to keep our communities safe. Therefore, now more than ever, we must defend our law enforcement officers from the calls in our very own backyard to defund the police while ensuring that cities attempting to do so face the consequences. In 2020, St. Louis had the worst homicide rate we've seen in 50 years. 262 people unjustly lost their lives to violent criminals. Kansas City also set a record for murders last year with 180 homicides. This resulted, once again, in St. Louis and Kansas City being the two of America's most deadly cities across our nation. Criminals are becoming incredibly brazen nowadays at every level due to politicians either tying the hands of law enforcement, talking about defunding the police, curtailing their powers, or refusing to prosecute all but the most serious offenses like we've seen here in St. Louis. Indeed, Mayor Schroer Jones' own director of public safety brazenly stated that law enforcement is not the answer when asked how he planned to combat crime in May, and Mayor Jones herself tried to cut $4 million from the police budget. This is the kind of attitude which is encouraging and stimulating crime at every level. In Kansas City, so-called sideshows with street racing have become a regular occurrence like they have here in St. Louis, but in Kansas City until very recently, leadership would not allow police to intervene. In St. Louis, who can forget that disgusting video we saw just a couple weeks ago of individuals jumping on a police cruiser, stomping up and down on a police car, one person trying to even get into the car with a human being, a law enforcement officer, inside, instead of simply obeying a police order to disperse when a party got out of hand. Those individuals clearly did not have any respect for police, most likely because our city government has routinely disrespected our law enforcement officers at every opportunity.